One fellow here asks a big question. Let's see what he's got to say. Okay, he says, "Here's a big question: What causes the motion, the action of these models?" He's talking about original motion, the cause of first cause, I guess, first cause of motion. Without the great why answered, God can always be provided as the prime mover. Are these guys for real? I mean, okay, let's see how we answer this gentleman. Okay, here it goes. Motion, two or more locations of an object. We define the word motion so that we know what we're talking about. Okay, so motion is two or more locations of an object. There we have it. Time, comparison of two motions. You have to have two motions. You have to compare these two motions. You need memory for that in order to have time. Otherwise, you don't have time. And so time requires memory. Motion does not. You do not need to have memory for motion. The moon was moving before we came aboard. Time did not exist at the time. There was no such notion as time. Mother Nature does not understand time. She understands before and after, maybe, because she lives at the cutting edge of time. She lives in a cross section of time, so she doesn't have this memory to remember what came before and after. So no, there's no before and after. And so time did not exist. I'm going to use that term. I hope you understand that I'm using it from ordinary speech. Okay, there was no such notion of time. Mother Nature does not recognize time. That's what I mean. She lives at the cross section of time, if you can call that living. She lives in a single frame. At any point in time, she lives in one frame of the universal movie. And whatever exists at that moment in time, it's all static for her. Okay? That's all she only knows the distance between objects within a given frame. That's all she recognizes in the universal movie. We, on the other hand, we have memory. And that's where the problem comes in. And so motion preceded time. Okay? We had motion before humans and animals and anything came aboard. We had no time. Time came with memory. And there was motion before life, which is memory, okay, arose on earth. Animals have time. They have a notion of time, an intuitive notion of time. Here, let me show you that, okay? Let me show you an example. Okay, this is just an example, okay, that animals have a notion of time. And why? Because time originated with life, not with life, but with animal life. Okay, with animal life, that's when time began to exist. They had an intuitive notion of time. And what it is essentially is a comparison of distance versus, again, intuitive, right? A distance versus speed. Okay, and here you have a comparison of how an animal thinks about time, why they have an intuitive notion of time. Okay, here it is. Okay, and here, let me start it here. There it goes. See, you have this little hog, okay, and boar, and you have the lioness. Why does the lioness chase the boar down? Well, she chases the boar down because she believes she can catch the boar. Otherwise, she wouldn't spend the energy. Okay, here's the boar running. You know, the lioness would not even think about it if she thought she had no chance. But when she sees the distance and she knows more or less her speed, again, she has an idea of how much speed she has, then she says, okay, I can catch that animal, that piece of food, okay? And that's the rudimentary notion of time. You know, a comparison of distance versus speed. And animals have that. And of course, we took it much farther than all other animals out there. You know, we turned it into a clock. We have the ticks, and we compared, you know, the second hand, you know, on the clock goes one tick mark from 1 second to 2 seconds to 3 seconds. Every time it goes to 1 second, 1 second, you know, moving 1 second on one tick mark, the Earth travels 30 kilometers. So it's comparing the distance of the distance traveled by the second hand on the clock with the second hand moving one tick mark against the motion of the Earth, which is 30 kilometers. That's what a second is. A comparison of two motions. That's what time is. Okay? And nobody ever figured it out. They're still trying to figure out what time is. They say it's what a clock reads. Great. And what is a clock? It's what reads time. Yeah. So we had motion before time. So when someone asks you when did time begin, we can more or less give them an answer, a very qualitative answer, saying time began when life began, when animal life began on Earth. On the other hand, motion was there since day one. And so this fellow asked, what created motion? What's an irrational question? That's what it is. Okay. Why is it an irrational question? Because it's not a question of physics. It's a question of philosophy, which is, you got to go through that first. Philosophy is explanations of purposes and reasons. And what this fellow is asking is, why did God set the first thing in motion? That's what he's asking. He's asking for the cause of motion, the original cause of motion, the first cause. That's what he's asking. It's an irrational question. It's an irrational question because you're asking, why did God do it? What was his purpose? What was his reason? You're not talking about, the physical aspect of why something moves. If you say, why did the cart move? Then you have a cause. You say because, or you can have a cause. You can say the donkey pulled it. So you have a cause for why, cause meaning mechanism, right? Why the cart moved. But if the cart is if the cart's the only thing in the universe, right? And God sets it in motion, and you ask, why did the cart move? The answer is because God had a headache and he wanted to move it out of the way. That's the reason, the purpose, not the cause. Okay? You still don't understand the mechanism of how God moved the cart. All you know is that it moved, and you say, why did it move? Well, it moved because God had a headache, wanted to get it out of the way. That's why. All the answers to why related to reasons and purpose which underlie physical phenomena are all irrational questions, and the answer is always the same, because God had a headache. That's always the answer. So what this guy is asking is an irrational question. Now, if you're asking something else, a specific motion, okay, you may ask, for example, why, meaning cause, mechanism, why does the rope move? Why does it torque? Okay, that's a different question. Now you're talking about physics. Now you're now introducing God into the picture. Okay, and yeah, you can say, look, there's a single thread in the entire universe, underlies all matter, turns into atoms, which turn into ropes, which turn into atoms, which turn into ropes, and so on down the line. It's a single thread going through the whole bit of matter in the universe. There's only a single thread that underlies it all. Closed loop thread, okay, just one thread, rubber band, think of that. That's what it is, okay? And yeah, with that, you can more or less get a picture of why the rope moves, why atoms move. We have a single thread universe, okay? This thread turns into ropes, which turn into atoms, which interconnect atoms, okay? There it is. All atoms are connected by these ropes, and the ropes make the same atom, which it binds. It goes from threads to rope, from atom to rope to atom, and so on down the line. Okay, so now we can understand why something moves in the sense that locally, like if you talk about a specific case, you can say, why does the rope move? Why does an atom move? Well, now we can find out because you're moving, every time you move something here, since it's a single closed loop thread made of a single piece, which is also flexible, okay, that's the assumption. Then when you pull here, you're pulling on a thread that's on the other side of the universe. Okay, the whole thing is moving everywhere in the universe. You're pulling, pushing, pulling, pushing. Okay, so the cause of motion for a specific thing like an atom, it could be that you push the atom. Maybe you push the ball, you're pushing the atom. That's another cause. But when we're talking about like the rope, why does the rope torque? Well, again, you have the atom pumping back and forth, and it torques the rope. But at the same time, remember, you're connected to every atom in the universe. And so when something happens here, right? Like for example, when the threads spin around and create the magnetic field, okay, that's affecting something on the other side of the universe as well, and they're affecting us. So it's all interrelated because we're all part of the same string, the same thread. Okay? So yeah, the issue here is that you cannot ask about motion in terms of why, meaning purpose and reason. Okay, you can talk about it in terms of cause, but not in terms of reason. But if you're going to talk about cause, it's got to be a specific case. You cannot talk about motion in general, which is what this individual asked.